Oh boy, things are getting messy out in LA, but what's up guys? My name is Gabe and welcome into the Trojan Blade. There's a lot of stuff, we'll call it, being thrown around on social media and in press conferences, and I haven't really seen anyone else address this yet, so I guess I'll do it. Before I do get into it though, I do want to say that this video is not meant to be inflammatory in any way. There are just some things around the program right now that I find fascinating and want to see where you guys are at with it as well. Okay, so before we jump in, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get into it. Okay, so we start on the defensive side of the ball with linebacker Eric Gentry. I'm sure many of you saw his tweet from last night that did end up getting deleted, but screenshots are a thing, so we have it here to show you. So Eric says 18 never was rusty, just an FYI. So I'm sure many of you either think that this is nothing or he's taking a parting shot at Alex Grinch. No and no. It was actually head coach Lincoln Riley who called him rusty. Here, have a listen.
And what's been responsible for his inconsistent snap counts on the year? We see him play a lot last week against Notre Dame, 2 snaps. Is it an injury? Is it you want to see more from him at practice?
Inconsistent snap counts. I mean, I think early in the year was, he missed all of spring ball and he essentially missed all of camp. So he was really rusty to begin the year, which is to be understood.
So yeah, Gentry with a shot at the head coach. That to me, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, please do let me know if I am, but to me that sounds like a player that knows he's not going to be here next year. And if you watch the film closely each and every week like I and many of you do as well, I think it's fair to say that Eric has been our most impactful defender we've had for about a month now. I'm not saying he's been Brian Cushing, but compared to Tackett and Cobb, he's been outstanding. Easily our best linebacker, so it doesn't make sense why he hasn't been out there. There has been a lot of talk of favoritism with Alex Grinch and the staff, and talking to some people around the program, I think that those concerns were 100% valid, I'll leave it at that. And talking to some parents and players, it does sound like Alex Grinch had 100% of the say with who played when. Brian Odom had no say in who the linebackers on the field were. Sean Nua had no say on who the defensive linemen rotating in were. I'm sure they'd give their input, but yeah, let's just say there's a reason Cobb and Curtis have gotten so much playing time this year over Gentry, Lee, and Davis, who all have more time in the scheme, and honestly just don't make the same amount of enormous mistakes as those two do. So speaking of Mason Cobb, he made a pretty controversial statement earlier in the week that for me at first glance I thought was a non-issue. So first I'll play the clip, then I'll tell you my thoughts on it.
What did you see on film against Washington? Just what kind of went wrong in that game?
Didn't watch the film. Nope, moved on from that game.
So like I said, at first I was thinking along the lines of, well, what are they really going to learn from that game anyway? It's pretty much the same exact tape from every single week, just because the defense has been so consistently bad. But the more I thought about it, it is a terrible look for your team captain linebacker to be saying he didn't watch film and almost dismissing Connor Morset's question there. I mean, when you're as bad a unit as the linebackers are, you do not have an excuse to be not watching film. It's a terrible example to set for the younger players. Honestly, just a horrible look any way you slice it. Now, Cobb has a lot to blame here, but I put most of the blame at the feet of the coaching staff. Why do our players have the option to not watch film? That's the second time we heard that this year, with Kalen Bullock being the first. I really think this just speaks to a major lack of accountability within the program. Sua Cravens weighed in on this as well, saying, 100% not true. If you're not watching the film individually already to hold yourself accountable, then as the individual player, you're wrong. But nothing surprises me about this defense at this point, including players supposedly not watching the game tape. Former Trojan Dion Bailey weighed in on this as well, saying a position group who has been playing horrible is not watching film. Do we think we are playing good at linebacker right now? Man, I don't even know what to say. SC gave up over 300 yards rushing to a passing team and we're not watching the tape. Oregon licking their damn chops, shaking my head. He also went on to say, not true at all. If that's the case, they haven't watched tape all year because every game has been disappointing on that side of the ball. Flushing tape is for good defenses who have a one-off bad performance. You don't flush anything being the 124th ranked defense. So absolutely great points there. That really helps illustrate my concerns with the program as it currently stands. Lack of leadership, lack of accountability, and a real lack of toughness. Next thing we have is edge rusher Jamil Muhammad. If you head over to Twitter and go to his likes tab, you'll scroll down and notice he liked a tweet saying, Grinch is a goner. Now we need to make sure Benny Wiley gets fired. You can feel the progress being made at USC. I mean, wow. There's not really a bunch of different ways to interpret this. I spoke about the deep-rooted issues that are present in the Trojan locker room after the Arizona game, and as you guys know, I got a ton of backlash for it. It was clear for any willing to open their eyes and not live in a fantasy land. And look, I get why people are quote-unquote sunshine pumpers. Ignorance is bliss is a very true statement, but when you get into the weeds and really start dissecting all this stuff, it doesn't paint a pretty picture going forward. The players clearly turned on Grinch. That video of him trying to break down the huddle and no one responding to him was as shocking a video as I've seen on a sideline, especially at USC. And guys, there are other players that feel a similar way about Benny Wiley. You look around and a lot of the players that have come in are not playing at the same level they did at other schools. I mean, that tweet's pretty cut and dry for him to like. Again, there's not too many ways you can interpret that. At the rate it's going, it seems so toxic that it's hard for me to envision any of the defensive staffers coming back. And yes, that might include Sean Nua, who I know we all love. And Lincoln has to manage the end of this season well. I don't recall ever seeing a head coach completely lose a locker room and end up winning it back. But guys, winning helps cure things like this. A huge win up in Eugene would do wonders for this program. A loss, or even worse, a blowout loss, and wait until next week, it's going to get even worse. We have nothing to lose this week. We should be playing free and as hard as we possibly can, but will that be enough? That remains to be seen. But guys, I am very curious to hear from you on this. Give me any and all thoughts you have on what I laid out for you in this video. The Oregon preview will be out tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here today. You're all awesome, and as always, take care and fight on.